Media consultant, and will be telling us about our prospects for landing jobs in the field of communications. Professor Venit.
I'm speaking to the students right now. I don't want you to think of me as some gray-haired old guy. So my assistant here is going to show you what I look like. You go walk up front. I'll show you what I looked like when I was in my 20s anchoring Channel 8 Action News here in New Haven. Go ahead. Yeah, you good. And when Anchorman 1 came out, the New Haven Register ran that picture and one of Will Ferrell, and we had similar hair. And that's as far as it went. But anyway, I also want to point out that that was my third job out of college, and in what was then the 21st market. So things happen, dreams come true, and I've had many, many dreams come true. But we're here to talk about yours. I'm here because of an offer I could not refuse. It was an opportunity to perform a kind of brain surgery, reaching into developing minds, implanting information and insights, and providing some advice about the meaning of life. Oh, and to complete the process in relatively few minutes. That was all part of the assignment. Well, the offer came from a former student of mine, a public relations major who's an officer of Lambda Pi Eta and is less than 14 months away from becoming a Quinnipiac alumna. So on behalf of the executive board, Carla Costello offered me the opportunity to speak about the communications field, but very specifically, and I quote, how the elite students inducted into the Honor Society will succeed post-graduation. Not a lot of wiggle room in there. Well, how many of you students think that's a great choice for a topic? How many of you parents think that's a great choice? Thank you. We have consensus. Well, I just happen to have some excellent research. The most recent data generated by a scientific study of the School of Communications, May 2013 graduates. They were surveyed and 75% responded to determine what is called the success rate 6 months after graduation. Now, our Dean, Lee Camlett, and the Assistant Dean for Career Services, Joseph Catrino, shared the results with me and agreed you'd likely be very interested in knowing what they found. Are you ready? Breaking news! Over 70% of the Quinnipiac University School of Communications class of 13 were employed within 6 months of graduation. 70% were within 6 months. Annual salaries ranged as high as over $45,000. 18% were in graduate schools. The combined percentage, 89%, because it was 18 point something, 89% is what is called the student success rate 6 months after graduation. And an 89 is truly extraordinary. As financial advisors usually note, past performance is not necessarily an indicator of future results, but it does provide some perspective. As for how your respective careers will play out and pay off, privilege will have a lot to do with your success. I recently participated in a multiculturalism workshop here at Quinnipiac University for administrators, faculty, and salary. Part of the discussion was about what differentiates one person from another. Privilege was one of those differentiating factors. You might also look upon them as competitive edges. We have to look inside ourselves and figure out how and why we became who we are personally and professionally. I soon realized I was one of the oldest participants in the workshop. For the record, I'm in my 70th year, enjoying life, liberty, and still pursuing happiness. As an American citizen, I consider that a privilege. I'm so old, I missed being a baby boomer. I was born in January 1945, with World War II still underway. My father was serving in the Army in Germany when I was born in Philadelphia. My mom was just 17. Dad was 19. He did not meet me until I was a year old. I was privileged to have them as parents. I'm told that when I was an infant, a neighborhood soothsayer, sort of a fortune teller, was asked what I would become. She reportedly said, "He shall earn his living by the words of his mouth." I think my family took that to mean I would become a lawyer. However, I was privileged to become a broadcaster, journalist, media consultant, and most gratifyingly, a college teacher. At Temple University, I was privileged to earn a bachelor's degree in 1966, having majored in radio, TV, film, and journalism, and in 1968, a master's degree in communications. I'd worked a variety of jobs during my 6 years at Temple University, and although I had that master's degree in hand, it took a few months to find a full-time job. There were two good offers, one in public relations for the Boeing Aircraft Corporation in Philadelphia, and one from a TV station in Philly, Channel 6. The PR job paid $125 a week. The TV news job was initially offered at $105. But when I was able to get that offer raised to $115 a week, it became an offer I could not refuse. My new boss said he expected more from me than other new hires because I had the privilege of that master's degree. I also had the privilege of having, and 48 years later, still have an understanding wife, Bonnie, who's with grandkids as we speak. A New England-based business consultant, Kenn, who writes the Rainmaker column for the weekly Hartford Business Journal, recently asked his readers in a headline, "Are you a brand?" He started his column by observing, it seems that everybody is a brand today, intended or not. The emergence of social media, platforms, instant access to information, and global connectivity all contribute to the phenomenon of individual branding. He advises, be mindful who you are. Knowing your true self requires self-awareness, understanding your personal values and your actions that shape who you are today. A writer, Linda Ellis, copyrighted a poem in 1994 illustrating how one's life might be summed up in a single form of punctuation. It's called the dash. I read of a reverend who stood to speak at the funeral of a friend. He referred to the dates on the tombstone from the beginning to the end. He noted that first came the date of birth and spoke of the following date with tears. But he said what mattered most of all was the dash between those years. For that dash represents all the time he spent alive on earth. And now only those who loved him know what that little line is worth. For it matters not how much we own, the cars, the house, the cash. What matters is how we live and love and how we spend our dash. So think about this long and hard. Are there things you'd like to change? But you never know how much time is left. You could be a dash mid-range. If we could just slow down enough to consider what's true and real, and always try to understand the way other people feel, and be less quick to anger and show appreciation more, and love the people in our lives like we've never loved before. If we treat each other with respect and more often wear a smile, remembering that this special dash might only last a while. So when your eulogy is being read, with your life's actions to rehash, would you be proud of the things they say about how you spent your dash? Folks, for me, communication is always akin to brain surgery, reaching the most intimate part of the human anatomy with the precision of language. It was far more than an offer I could not refuse. This experience has been a privilege for me, and I thank you for making it possible and hopefully productive. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you for that, Professor Venit. The name Lambda Pi Eta is represented by the Greek letters L Lambda, P Pi, and H Eta, symbolizing what Aristotle described in his book Rhetoric as the three modes of persuasion. Logos meaning logic, pathos relating to emotion, and ethos defined as character.